thank you so much. Before we begin, though, if you have your cell phones, just make sure they're powered down or on vibrator, at least so that you're fully aware in the present moment. Let's begin.
Although when cell phones go off in a meditation meeting, right, it's an opportunity for mindfulness practice and to notice the things that bug you. Or what I like to say, it's one more thing not to be bothered by. And, it's actually possible to be in kind of a deep meditative state and hear a cell phone go off nearby, because it's happened to me lots of times, and not be bothered by it. I mean, sometimes it's like, oh, and that little jolt of wake up happens. And sometimes there's that little criticism of, couldn't they have kept, paid attention? But often it can be just kind of like in Zen practice, they talk about meditation bells, and when Zen will sit for 45 minutes or an hour, periodically during the meditation time, they'll ring a bell. And that's not the end of meditation. It's just a reminder of, are you awake? Are you paying attention? What's happening at this moment? I mean, so you're present every moment during the meditation session, right? Unless the mind wanders, which it might do, because that's one of the things that minds do. And cell phones can be meditation bells. And we talk about anything can be like a meditation bell. Like a cell phone going off can be a meditation bell. Or stomach growling can be a meditation bell. Or stomach growling of the person next to you can be a meditation bell. Or someone snoring can be a meditation bell. My training, I've been meditating since Berkeley High School back in 1969. Actually, even before that, I started meditating. So I've been at this for quite a long time. MBSR is a program, mindfulness-based stress reduction, is a program that really is, it's an 8-week-long class and provides a large collection of practices to do during class and homework as well. And so what I'm going to talk about tonight is one of those types of practices. And in fact, I'm going to focus on something that's a little bit different than even anything that we include within MBSR. But so that's my training as MBSR. I was going to say, one time I was at a book reading for Jon Kabat-Zinn, who's the founder of MBSR. If you read about mindfulness in Time Magazine or whatever magazines you're reading, very often it comes back to mindfulness-based stress reduction. And Jon Kabat-Zinn, as often as not, is interviewed, although he's busy enough that lots of other people are doing it. But I went to a meditation center 10 years ago, 11 years ago, when he was just finished his last major book, I guess, at least, Coming to Our Senses. And John is very clever with words, and that nice double entendre of, coming to our senses, come to your senses. But mindfulness practice really is coming to our senses, our sense of touch, sense of sight, sense of hearing, sense of smell or taste. Sense of touch turns out to be, it's not just touch, right? If anybody's studying microbiology or something like that, there's lots of different touches. There are nerves in your hands that feel heat, and there are other nerves that feel pain, and there are other nerves that feel gentleness. There are certain nerves that feel when a caress goes at 2 inches per second. Just the right amount to stimulate the most oxytocin, the most of that connection, love hormone. So if you're caressing someone, 2 inches per second is about the right speed to go. Different nerves that do that. I mean, we're just extraordinarily complex. A quick glance at our life, we know that we're complex, right? And the more you study, the complexer we get. And so Jon Kabat-Zinn has a book that's that fat, of a collection of a bunch of 3 or 4 or 5 page talks, kind of like Wherever You Go, There You Are, a book that you guys started with a couple of year and a half ago. And there was 2 250 of us, I guess, in this book reading with John Kabat-Zinn. It was actually a book reading. It was a day-long meditation retreat with readings from the book and talking about the book. And we interspersed the 6 or 7 hours of the event with a lot of little sitting meditation practices and some walking meditation in between, and then John talking and some question and answer. And I think the second session, it was a dank, old, lousy, one of those, where you can stack trailers together to make big classrooms. Maybe you went to some of these portables when you're in, I guess Cal doesn't have any portables anymore, but they used to. But lots of elementary schools in lesser, more poorly funded districts or rebuilding districts use these portables. And it was like that, only it was a bunch of them strung together. And it was hot. The air circulation was not really made for 250 people. And it was really kind of soporific, just kind of tough to stay awake. And the second meditation session was going to be, I don't remember, 20 minutes or something like that. And a woman about 3 or 4 seats over from me started snoring pretty loudly in the middle of it. And it was one of those wonderful opportunities where, it's easy to be bugged by a lot of things, but here was one more thing not to be bothered by. So I'm sitting, meditating, and here's this snore comes up. And really with no judgment, no anger, no frustration, no why couldn't she be quiet, it was really just a natural reaction of saying, oh yeah, here's an opportunity to wake up again. Yeah, she's fallen asleep, but let me fall awake right now in this moment. And, she'll wake up again, and who knows what her meditation practice is or what her issues are. But it was really just an interesting opportunity. And I think it was the next break, I ran forward, and John was heading off to do, I don't know, something or other. I managed to tap him or call out John, and he stopped and turned around, and I described that little story very briefly. I said during the last meditation time someone started snoring, and for me it was just really an opportunity to be just right present with the snoring, not even like, okay, so now here's something to ignore. It's like, oh, here's a and just to be mindful of the snoring even. I told this to John. It was really not a reaction against or negative, but it was just a reaction of being present with. And he stopped and he said, "That's it." And that was almost the entire interchange that I had with him. That's it. So cell phones, stomach gurgling, leg feeling painful, back aching, headache, an itch. Everybody ever meditated with an itch before? This will trigger it by talking about it, I bet you. But anybody who's meditated for a while, I don't know, maybe not everybody, goes through an itch period. And, an itch is just, if you're really sitting trying to be attentive, actually itches bother me much less than they used to in general, but there comes a point where, if you're trying to stop your mind from wandering, an itch will do it. Right? I mean, you can just put your attention right on that itch or wherever it is, and you can stay with it. It's interesting. And eventually it'll go away. And the really interesting exercise is, can you notice when it's gone? Usually it's sort of gone, and they go, oh yeah, it's not there anymore. It's difficult to see it disappear. So, a lot of times, you guys, so half of you have been here before. How many people have studied meditation in some sort of a context before? I mean, even just being here before. How many people have not studied meditation before? So this might be even the very first time. I sat at a retreat, a week-long retreat, basically, well, it was entirely silent, just a couple months ago. And there was one woman there who had never meditated with a group of people before, never meditated more than 20 minutes before. And we're going 45 minutes silent walking meditation for half an hour, silent sitting for 45 minutes, silent walking for 30 minutes, silent eating. And she did great. She hadn't realized it was going to be silent. It was a little bit of a shock to her, but it worked. So we'll do tonight a few different experiential little things to do, and one a little bit longer one towards the end. And it will, I don't know if you got a chance to read the little blurb on the website, but there's tons of different styles of meditation. I mean, at some point you can break things down into saying, okay, let's just be mindful of the breath going in and out. Okay, so let's just be mindful of the out breath. Or let's just watch the count, how many counts it takes for an in-breath, how many counts it goes for an out-breath. There's all kinds of complicated things to do with meditation. And I'm going to give you one that's pretty simple. It will be just meditating with a word or phrase of your choosing. So if you want to, you can start unconscious part of the brain thinking of a word or phrase that might be meaningful or interesting to you. We won't get to this for another 15 or 20 minutes, but you might sort of let it start processing a little bit. Shalom or peace or love, or if you want to do a short little prayer, the Lord is my shepherd, or Om. It's a practice that comes from transcendental meditation, if you've ever heard of that. The Beatles made it famous kind of back in the 60s. Sexy Sadie was apparently written about the teacher of transcendental meditation, not particularly in a positive light. But transcendental meditation and the secularized version, which I'm going to do here, is one of the most well-studied forms of meditation using Western scientific methods. MBSR being probably the leading one, and Tibetan monks who have practiced for 30 years are the third most popular, probably. There's a bunch of those that are, and then Stanford has a compassion program started by some miscellaneous folks, but including one of the Dalai Lama's sidekicks. And we'll do a little closing thing that's kind of similar to what they do at the very end. But most of the time when you come to a mindfulness training, the teaching is to watch your breath. So, typical person will breathe 17,000 to 30,000 times a day. And typical person, I'm not sure how many breaths you've noticed today. If you have asthma, you might have noticed more than most people. If you've been trained to meditate watching breath, you might have noticed a few more breaths. If you swim, maybe you notice your breath, because swimming you sort of have to pay attention to when you are and aren't breathing, or at least you have to breathe at the right times and not breathe at the wrong times. And so breathing is a pretty simple kind of a thing. We all know how to do it. It's one of these really interesting, cool things that our autonomic nervous system, the part of our nervous system that doesn't require any conscious control, just takes care of it. We just keep breathing. When it's timed for a little bit of extra oxygen, your body just yawns for you. And now you'll probably all yawn, or I'll stifle yawns. With just the mention of the word yawn often will stimulate that. But your autonomic nervous system takes care of breathing most of the time. And we can control it ourselves, to some extent, right? It's, we can't just shut it off because we don't want to do it anymore for very long. I mean, you can until you pass out, and then your autonomic nervous system will start breathing for you again. So let's let's sit up kind of straight briefly. Feet on the floor. Often it's said, feet flat on the floor. I don't care. When I meditate on my own, when I have a choice, I sit on a cushion on the floor, a little meditation cushion. So when I sit in a chair, I often like to cross my ankles, which sort of reminds me of sitting cross-legged on the floor or in a Burmese posture. But whatever is comfortable for you. Sitting with my ankles crossed sort of lowers my knees a little bit, which rotates my hips forward a little bit, which keeps my posture a little bit nicer instead of slumping-ish. But it doesn't matter so much. I mean, it matters, but there isn't, some people would say there isn't a right way to do it. Really, there isn't a wrong way to do it. Explore what seems to work for you, and what works for you is the right thing to do. And often with meditation practice, we do it with eyes closed. For this practice, to start with, you can do it either open or closed. If you like, I'll kind of tell you what's going to happen here. This is a little sort of a 4-breath practice to sort of center and bring you in. And what I'll do is I'll count down out loud for you. And with 3, sort of take a deepish breath. And you can do it now or not, but I'll just sort of tell you what's going to happen next. With 3, I'll say 3, take in a deep breath, and on the 3, kind of let out the breath and relax from the top of your head down to kind of shoulders. So face, cheeks, head, eyes, mouth, tongue, maybe neck. Just let your head settle. And in breath, and with 2, relax kind of from the shoulders down through the arms, hands, torso, down to kind of the waist area. And in breath, and with a 1, let the relaxation come all the way from the head all the way down through your feet, through your legs and feet. And then with 0, what's left to relax with 0? With 0, kind of just your whole body's already kind of relaxed, and let yourself be in that. And kind of just let your emotions relax, your mind relax, your whatever is happening, just your attitude, just soften it a little bit. And then I'll just leave it with a little bit of quietness for a breath or 2 after that. Okay, so let's just start. Take a couple deep breaths, just at your own pace, in and out. In deeply, and out, kind of blow it out a little bit extra far. Okay, and then the next breath, take it in, and when you let it out, just relax the head down to the neck with a 3. Breathe in, the shoulders down to the waist, 2. Breathe in deeply, head all the way down to the toes, 1. Breathe in. Just let your whole being relax. 0. Okay. So one of the things that we do in mindfulness practice is just learn to let go of whatever's going on. Learn to not be bothered. And as you bring your awareness back into the room, maybe opening your eyes when you're ready, just think briefly about what's something that happened today that just made you happy, feel good, pleasant. It doesn't have to be like a big shabam thing, but just what's something that just felt good. And this moment is different than the moment when you originally felt it, but maybe you can feel it again, actually. Or at least remember what it felt like a little bit, perhaps. And probably something during the day was less than pleasant. What might that have been? Doesn't have to be a big shabam wham, wow, this was a horrible day, or maybe it was. But just something that was less than pleasant. Even just little things like, shirt you wanted to wear today was in the laundry, or who knows what. And just perhaps notice, what was that like? And finally, just coming back to the present moment in the present room, and noticing sensations in your body. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. And then when you're ready, gently opening your eyes and being back in the normal way of being in the room. And I would like to have you break into groups of 3, and I'll just, I think I'll do the method of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Break into groups of 3, and just spend a minute talking about maybe those 3 things. What was pleasant today? What was unpleasant today? What's kind of present right now in your body? Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, or otherwise? Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. Count to 5. 4. Okay, so we'll do, I'll explain again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. So if you're 1, come over here. And for about 1 minute, I'll ring the bell after about a minute. I'll ring the bell to start. Just share a little bit about what was something unpleasant that happened today, if you'd like to share it. Actually, I should say 2 things. Anytime you want to pass at any time, that's an appropriate response, and that's completely fine without justifying or excusing or explaining. It's just, I pass on this one. If I pass on all 3, that's legitimate and fine. And nobody has to go, wonder what's wrong with you today. That's just what you want to do today. So share a little bit about what was unpleasant, what was pleasant, and how are things now. Just for, a minute plus per person. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say is the folks that lead this thing like sometimes to post guided meditations or talks on the website. And so this is being recorded. It will be all confidential. Things that happen here should not be, wow, you should hear what so-and-so just said. This is a confidential, and the recording, if there's anything that seems personal, won't be passed around and shared. Okay, so just to let you know, the law in California that every chord you have to tell people. So you've been told. Okay, I'll just back up so you guys can have some space. Figure out who's going to go first. And okay, first person.
He was like really upset. He was like, "What do I do?" He was like, "He wants to stop." So I was like really unpleasant. But what was pleasant was that I had my own keys. He's using the tension improving a lot. He slapped it really good. He said last week. I guess now I'm realizing that I should be treating him. So I was good. What's some respect? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, when I went right now, 2 weeks ago, he was just sitting there, and I was just time
Okay, first person wrap up. And if you haven't had time to finish, then notice the unpleasant sensation, or maybe notice the relief that you're done. Whatever the sensation is, that's an opportunity for mindfulness. And second person.
I just need to go.
So second person wrap up. And the third person. Go.
First year.
So let's rearrange ourselves in one big circle again. You can stay where you are-ish or go back to where you were-ish. So more or less anytime when I'm talking, feel free to raise your hand or interrupt or ask a question if you like. So I talked earlier about mindfulness practice is often advertised these days as stress reduction, or suffering reduction, or pain reduction. And one of the, when I first started meditating, actually it was just because it was fun, I guess, really, for me, but I started meditating again back in the 90s for stress reduction specifically. And I did the relaxation response, which is the practice that I'm going to talk about here. I was having kind of pains and, gosh, am I having a heart attack, or I'm too young for that, or what's going on here? I went around and visited a cardiologist and put me on a treadmill. My heart was fabulous, and he said, try a GI doctor, and I went to a GI doctor and gastroenterologist, and he said, well, this or that. He had me swallow a camera and looked around, and he said, yeah, there's a little bit of cells in there that are kind of stressed out from too much acid, and it might be food, this or that, or maybe some stress. And I was kind of indignant about stress. I'm relaxed. What do you mean stress? But I went out and bought a book. I was on a business trip in St. Louis a couple weeks later and was browsing through a used bookstore and found a book called, by the guy who coined the term relaxation response, Herbert Benson, and read it. And on the plane back, I did the practice that I'm going to teach you guys in a few minutes. And because I'd meditated a lot in high school and a little bit afterwards, I picked it up pretty quickly. And after a couple weeks, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks later, perhaps, I was in a work setting, and there was some stressful kind of thing. When normally, for all my life, I would have taken my stress in my stomach. I mean, we take stress in different places, right? I mean, some people do it in their stomach. Some people clench their jaws. Some people scowl. I mean, you sweat. Lots of parts of our body that take stress. But for me, it was my stomach, and I was in this, little face-to-face with someone at work, and I found myself just, breath just came in, breath just went out, and I was still very present. I hadn't just gone someplace else to get away from this stressful situation. I was just very present, and my body just went, ooh, I just settled down in it, and I just, I was still hearing what was going on. I was still present, really in many ways more present than I would have been previously. But I was at the same time going, wow, this is different, isn't it? This is a change. Some people ask, how does mindfulness practice help? How does it change? And when I started meditating, 40 years ago, nobody really knew. 45 years ago, nobody really knew. I mean, it's because of spiritual reasons or this or that. And there's starting to be lots of evidence that the neurology is changing things, that the way our neurology and moods change, chemicals change the way which genes express themselves in to create more of certain hormones or less of certain hormones. Just by breathing more slowly, you can strengthen your vagal tone. The vagus nerve kind of innervates your heart and all of your inner organs, or many of your inner organs. Just by breathing at 5.5 to 6 times a minute, you can kind of increase the heart rate variability. So there's all kinds of these odd things. Well, so how does that happening? Well, so there's even papers about how does all that happen? The answer really is that it's magic. I mean, life is magic. Here's a poem by Mary Oliver about moths, about little squirmy worms that eat your tomatoes becoming beautiful moths. Magic. I mean, how does it happen? Well, I mean, so, right, we can explain all of, the chemical processes and the gene expressions and all this kind of stuff. And depending on one's ontological view of the universe, maybe that's enough of an explanation, or maybe it's not enough of an explanation. But regardless, it's just stunning. Great moth comes from his papery cage, is the name of this. Gone is the worm, that tunnel body, gone is the mouth that loved leaves and tomatoes. Gone are the innumerable feet. He is beautiful now and shivers into the air, as if he has always known how, who crawled and crawled all summer. He has wide wings with a flare at the bottom. The moon excites him. The heat of the night excites him. But where did the dance come from? Surely not out of a simple winter's sleep. Surely it's more than ambition, this new architecture. What could it be? What does it? Let me look closer, and a long time, the next time, I see green-blooded worm crawling and curling, hot day after hot day, among the leaves and the smooth, proud tomatoes. Magic happens. How in the world do you cram for an exam and get through it? It's just magic. How do we learn to let stress not be so significant? Interestingly, the relaxation response that I'm going to teach now is a really simple practice that doesn't provide lots of explanations in the original instructions. MBSR gives lots of complicated stuff and lots of, if you're watching a range of different teachers, there's lots of different ways to meditate, lots of different ways to practice mindfulness, lots of different ways to just sort of ungrasp, uncling. When things get to stressing us out, some of it's because we're just hanging on to, we really want things to be different. We want this bad thing to go away, or we want this good thing to be more of and never leave. Or sometimes I was watching a young family, 2 parents and 2 young school-age girls today, and there was just, it was just anger and frustration in the family. And it was like somehow, it's not just that they're hanging on to, their anger and their mood and things like that. Somehow they've gotten themselves to the point where the mood and the patterns is hanging on to them. And somehow, how can we learn to let go, or how can we learn to make space so whatever it is that's getting us lets go of us? The stuff that's just getting us. We don't know, but it's possible. Maybe we have some ideas, but we don't need to know the whole answer. So what I'd like to have you do now is pick a word or a phrase. In transcendental meditation, typically there's it's a secret. You're given a mantra, which is one of about 24 mantras, but it's got to be secret, and nobody knows that everybody else has their same mantra, or lots of people have the same mantra. So you're not supposed to tell anybody, but I don't believe in that kind of magic. What you say or what I don't believe in that kind of magic. My mantra, the word I use, and I did this is my main meditation practice for 6 or 8 years, I guess, is life. So the instruction is to pick a word, whatever word you would like, or if you experience meditate or just like to watch the breath, it's fine to leave out words. So 8 steps, and I have a handout here that I'll give you when we're done. So you can take this with you. So pick a word or phrase that's firmly rooted in your belief system, or that means something or is valuable, or just the word one or the word peace or something. Preferably not a word that's an ambitious word, I suppose, because we're trying to sort of relax and not and kind of undo during this time instead of just being active and assertive at this point. Really kind of learning to step back and relax. And step 2, sit back and relax in a comfortable way. And this word, if you're fishing for a word still, just pick life. You can pick a different word later if you want. I fished around for a bunch of different words for a couple of years probably before I finally settled in. And as you sit, let your back be relatively straight, let your head be balanced upright. We like to say kind of in a manner that shows some dignity without rigidity. Sit quietly in a comfortable position. And if you're comfortable closing your eyes, or if not closing them, maybe letting them tilt down at a 45-degree angle and just gazing at the carpet in front. But I encourage you to close eyes, because just closing eyes actually stimulates alpha brain waves in your brain. And then relax your muscles. We did this already briefly. Let's reverse it briefly and go quickly through the body. Let's start with your feet. Soles of your feet. Just allow them to rest where they're resting. Up through the tops of your feet, your ankles. Perhaps they'll feel a little bit heavy. Sometimes just the opposite. They'll feel a little bit light somehow. Sometimes they might feel as if they were filled with a fluid or filled with light. Or sometimes they just feel pretty normal. Whatever they feel like is just perfect for right now. But just being aware of the sensations in the lower leg and calf muscles, the shin, your knee and the knee joint and the hollow space behind your knee. And your thighs, the fronts and backs of the thighs and the skin around. Your butt where it's sitting on the chair. Just the sensations. Anything pleasant or unpleasant, or maybe not really either pleasant or unpleasant. Up through the torso, just allowing a relaxation and awareness of the sensations. Your chest, feeling the gentle rise and fall with each breath. The shoulders, and arms, forearms, and hands. Your neck, jaw, tongue, lips, cheeks, the eye sockets and the eyelids, and the eyeballs in the sockets. Perhaps the air coming in and out through the nostrils. And the forehead. And the scalp. And the ears. And as you breathe in and out, naturally, peacefully. Begin just silently to yourself with each exhalation. Repeat your word or your phrase. Just over and over again with each exhalation, with each out-breath. Repeat the word or phrase. And from time to time, the mind will wander off to other things besides just your word or phrase. And when you notice, there's no benefit to be gained by judging, by being critical, by being harsh. Just, the mind has wandered back to your word or phrase with the next out-breath. And now for the next 5 minutes or so, I'll just leave you in mostly silence. And just continue with each exhalation, with each out-breath. Repeat your word or phrase. You may actually like to mouth the sound without using any vocal sound. Or may just think the word with each exhalation. And just repeating the word or phrase with each exhalation. now for the final minute or so, just reflecting on how has this time of sitting meditation practice been for you. Not rating it so much as considering the quality of it, how it's been. Pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. Variations of focused attention or of drowsiness. Body sensations. Just how has it been? And when I ring the bell 3 times, when the sound of the 3rd bell dies down, that's the end of the meditation practice. Like Maya Angelou said, it's not the number of breaths that we take, but it's the times that take our breath away that makes life meaningful. Times that take breath away, or the times that bring us into our breath, where wow. Questions, comments, thoughts, observations?